Good. So on a fairly gross view of the ovary, we say oogenesis occurs in the cortex, in the outer rim, the inner portion. What do you think would it be called? The medulla is where the blood, ovarian artery, ovarian veins, nerves penetrate. So medulla would be passageway for the vessels. Cortex is where oogenesis is occurring. Good? Does that answer both questions? What's the next question?
What is egg production called?
What is egg production called? You don't need the slide for that. Oogenesis, right? Next. We're in the right place, Gwen.
Identify the tiny cell.
Okay, tiny cell, we need to zoom in if we're looking for tiny. But you see we have all different sizes of follicles. That's a gigantic follicle. That's a very nice large tertiary or grafferent follicle. These are the ones that are ready to ovulate. This is one that's kind of in between, like a secondary follicle. But if I gave you tiny, this is what we're talking about, these. These are what you have about 200,000 of at puberty, when you're 13 years old. Those are called primordial follicles. This would be just beyond a primordial, like a primary follicle. These are very similar. They're going to have a primary oocyte inside. Would it be haploid or diploid? This is getting at seeing if you can picture the stem cell was the what? Oogonia. Are there any oogonia left? Not in the female. Those were diploid. They all did their cell division mitosis to become so many primary oocytes. The primary oocytes are in primordial and primary follicles. Do you see one layer of cells or more than one?
One.
I only see one. If it's one layer of cells, what do we call it? Follicle cells. When we advance in growth, those layers are going to multiply, and then we'll call them granulosa cells. So that's just a reminder, these are going to be some of your answers here to come. What's the next question?
Name the cells around
Okay, the cells around it are follicle cells, one layer.
it. And what would 3 and 4 collectively be called?
Primary oocyte plus the follicle cells would make a primary follicle. Next,
Name the stage of follicle.
and what's the answer?
Graphian.
Graphian? Okay, so we're skipping past. See how this follicle's a little bit bigger? Maybe we're getting close to 2. Also, meiosis 1 is becoming completed, and I don't know exactly when that occurs, so that makes it a little tricky. But this would be a very beautiful, you could call it Graphian, 3rd degree tertiary, mature, or this is a large fluid-filled container, so we call it a vesicular follicle. Any of those are okay. What's the next question?
What is the egg stage inside?
Okay, this is the egg stage. Now we have a secondary oocyte. It's completed meiosis 1. Anything that's completed meiosis 1 and beyond is a what? Haploid cell. There's only one set of chromosomes left. This is what gets ovulated, and it only finishes meiosis 2 if what? Fertilization occurs, then it would become an ovum, or officially an egg. So this is a pre-egg called the secondary oocyte. Next question.
Is it haploid or diploid?
Haploid. And
What will it become if it's fertilized?
an ovum. Okay? Good? Is that it for that? Or
No.
more questions? Keep going.
What is the collection of cells making up the periphery of the follicle?
Okay, the periphery of the follicle is all of this. And does this look like one or more than one layer here?
Multiple layers.
More than one. So we call them follicle cells. I wouldn't say you're wrong if you call these follicle cells also, but they really get a special name. Read the next question.
What is the fluid-filled cavity?
Oh, fluid-filled cavity, antrum. Then,
What is the narrow glycoprotein layer around the secondary oocyte?
okay, so this would be the secondary oocyte membrane here, but then this is like the glycoprotein layer. That's called the zona pellucida. And that's kind of significant because what? It's an additional thing that the sperm have to chew through to actually reach the egg. Then what?
What are the granulosa cells around the secondary oocyte?
Okay, so these are called the corona radiata. What's a coronavirus? A virus with a crown, right? So this looks like a crown too around the egg, so that's the corona radiata.
What hormone causes the development of these structures?
This is the follicular stage that we've been looking at all through here, so it must be follicle stimulating hormone, FSH.
What hormone causes the rupture of the last follicle seed?
Okay? Ovulation is going to be caused by LH. And
What is the event of rupture called?
ovulation. Good? So a bunch of questions we could ask about that, agree? But that ties in some of the physiology, even just looking at a picture. That's good for you. Next question. That's it? We're not going to be done. I'd like you to know the uterine stages, okay? So your book maybe has a good enough picture. Let me see how this looks. Yeah. Your book has a pretty good picture I could cut out, or this is the proliferative stage of the uterine cycle. And this is all like myometrium and functional layer. And basal layer. This is, see how thick this is? From basically here to here. This is a freshly rebuilt endometrium. What stage would that be of the uterine cycle? Proliferative. Okay? So let's be able to name the stages and tell me the hormones. Proliferative stage, estrogen causes this. Next. See how many squiggles there are there? All those squiggles are glycogen glands. So now, it's still very thick, but we've added to it what? Lots of glycogen glands. That's the giveaway for the secretory stage, day 14 to 28. Key hormone for this? Progesterone. Stays like this if pregnancy occurs. If pregnancy does not occur, there's feedback to the ovary. It shuts down estrogen and progesterone production. And we see a menses. Yes. You see chunks of endometrium have sloughed off. Yes. So that would be the bleeding stage. Menses is day 1 through day 5. Loss of the functional layer of the endometrium caused by what? Lack of hormones. So estrogen and progesterone both very low at this time. All right, that's it.